Welcome to the Dr. Lori Mars podcast, where she interviews experts in health and science, sharing their expertise so you can live your healthiest life. This episode of the podcast is proudly sponsored by FitVegan Coaching, the world's leading whole food, plant-based body recomposition program for Gen X and baby boomers. Founded by Maxime, whose personal journey began after losing his ex-fiancée to breast cancer, FitVegan Coaching is on a mission to disease-proof the world through the transformative power of plant-based eating and fitness. This program is the Rolls-Royce of plant-based coaching, offering all-inclusive services, personalized plans, world-class accountability, lifelong support, and more. Say goodbye to the yo-yo dieting and embrace a lasting transformation that will rev up your metabolism even post-transformation. Ready to take charge of your health and vitality? Head over to fitvegan.ca, that's fitvegan.ca, and mention Dr. Lori for exclusive bonus savings when you sign up. Don't miss this opportunity to join the movement towards a healthier, fitter, and more vibrant you. This episode of the podcast is proudly sponsored by The Healing Kitchen, your path to vibrant health. Immerse yourself in the transformative program, guided by the combined expertise of myself, Dr. Lori Marbus, and Chef Brittany Giroudi, who has lost 70 pounds on a whole food plant-based diet. Here's what's in store for you. Virtual weekly sessions. Engage in an immersive 60-minute virtual session every single week, where you'll delve into the world of wholesome plant-based goodness right from your own kitchen. Cooking with Brittany the first half hour. Unleash your inner chef as you're captivated by Chef Brittany Giroudi's culinary mastery that will delight your taste buds and nourish your body. Medical Q&A with Dr. Lori the last half hour. Prioritize your well-being during the second half hour. I will personally address your medical inquiries, providing evidence-based insights and personalized advice, empowering you to make informed choices for your health. So join us on the Healing Kitchen to help you step into a healthier and most vibrant future. Welcome to the podcast, and we're going to welcome back one of my favorite people, Maxine from FitVegan. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks
Excited
for
to be
coming. As always, we always have fun talking. We literally spent a good 45 minutes talking before we started recording this podcast.
Yeah, I
It's
usually
always such a
schedule time
joy.
before and after.
Yeah, this is like, it's our catch-up time. But as always, it's so much fun. But first of all, if someone is not familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about, the Fit Vegan and maybe some of the clients that you've been working with more recently?
Yeah, for sure. So we basically have built FitVegan to help people improve their body composition on a whole food plant-based lifestyle for the main purpose of reducing people's risk of chronic illnesses. Right. Because you had listened to some of the previous episodes of my podcast. I lost my late partner to breast cancer after almost a 5-year battle, which put me on this journey of wanting to help people not be in that position. And we all know that if we move our bodies, we have a healthy body fat level, and we eat whole food plant based, we're greatly reducing our risk of all these chronic illnesses. It's just like putting on a seatbelt, right? There's no guarantees in life, but if you get into a car accident and you have your seatbelt on, you're way less likely to die than if you don't have the seatbelt on. So moving your body, exercising, being at a healthy body weight, eating whole food plant based is just like putting on that seatbelt. So yeah, basically shifting your body composition, right? Basically two things. We're looking to increase the amount of lean muscle mass and decrease the amount of body fat on the body. The number on the scale is not really relevant. It's just a piece of information in the bigger picture of things, because if you lose 5 pounds of fat but you put on 5 pounds of muscle, the scale will show a 0 pound difference, and most people would think that they're not progressing. So just want to put that into context when we talk about body composition. Honestly, there's a few stories that I want to share of people that are in the most common situation of people that struggle to improve their body composition. So I just posted about this the other day. We had a client named Jill. She was eating, I think it was like 1,000 calories per day. Again, that's from before she started working with us. That's not from working with us. 1,000 calories a day. And she was doing around 13 hours of cardio per week.
Wow, that is a
Yeah.
lot.
And so she came in and she's like, I want to lose, I think it was like 15 or 20 pounds. I was like, how? Like, I have no wiggle room. You're barely eating any food and you're doing so much exercise. Your body's used to so much. So I'm like, the alternative is that, I make you eat less food and I make you exercise more, which is not going to be healthy for you to be that low in calories. not only from an energy standpoint, but if you think of eating less food, there's less vitamins and minerals and fiber that come into your body. And so I told her, I'm like, hey, we need to reverse diet you before we do a fat loss. So let's speed up your metabolism. Let's bring you to in a better spot so that then you are in a position to lose weight. So reverse dieting, the for the people that are new to it, is just like basically if you're to go camping and start a fire, which Dr. Laura is about to do a bunch of, right? You start a little
Yes.
fire, and when you have that small flame, you wouldn't go on and throw a big log of wood, right? Because that little flame
Right.
can't handle it, it's too small. So how do you make a small flame bigger without using, any form of gasoline? You throw smaller pieces of wood on it over time, and eventually that flame is going to grow to the point where it can handle the log of wood. So same thing with the body. We're just gonna add a little bit more food, a little bit more energy intake slowly over time to basically increase the size of that flame to speed up your metabolism, right? And we're basically tricking your body into being able to process more food without storing more fat. So we did that process for her for 4 months. And as we kind of increased her food very slowly, we also decreased the amount of cardio that she was doing. And so again, I think she's very typical because I've also fallen prey to that way before I knew what I knew now. Let's eat as little as possible. Whatever I can get by on, that's as little as possible. I will eat that. And let me do as much cardio as possible because that's what people think that's needed for weight loss. So
Mm.
what we did is as we just slowly increased her food intake, we also slowly decreased her cardio output, but just get very slowly. So the body didn't notice a drastic shift in energy intake and energy output. And then we started to slowly add resistance training into the mix. I think we got her up to like 4 times a week of resistance training and down to like 1 hour of cardio per
Oh,
week.
that's a huge switch.
Per week, right? It was at 13. And I think
Wow.
we brought her up to like, I think it was like 1900 or 2000 calories that we were able to bring her back.
Nice.
And what happened as we increased her food, decreased her cardio, and increased her resistance training, she actually got like baby abs. She has like a little 4 pack now in her stomach. So, as much as her weight didn't really budge, her body composition shifted as we introduced the right things and fixed the things that were hurting her ultimately.
Mm,
Because
mm.
when we think of losing weight, if you go to steep calorie deficit, you're basically putting your body in a state where it just wants to hold on to the stored energy, right? And I'll just grab a little prop. It'll take me 2 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah. So wearing my gym shorts. So this is 5 pounds of fat, right? I have another 15 pounds on my shelf here, but fats to your body is not a bad thing according to your body. This is stored energy for when you need it for the future because our body hasn't gotten accustomed yet to the fact that there's, a Whole Food or a Vaughn's around the corner or a Safeway if you're in Canada, right? Or an IGA in Canada. So it isn't accustomed to the fact that you have access to thousands of calories. You can just Instacart, Uber Eats, 10,000 calories today if you wanted to. And so fat is stored energy for the future because in case you are in the middle of the desert and you don't have access to food, it will be able to rely on those fat storages to be able to survive. And when we think about it logically, I just really thought about that the other day. There's no limit as to how much stored energy your body can hold. That's why some people weigh 500 pounds, 600 pounds, 700 pounds. I don't know who's the heaviest person on earth, right? But probably slightly above that. Do you know?
There's been people over 1,000 pounds.
Over 1,000 pounds. So there's
Yes.
literally no limit as to how much energy your body can store in a source of fat. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it would keep going, but just most people end up passing away from cancer, heart disease,
Right.
something wrong happens ultimately when you're that weight. But there's literally no limit as to how much your body can store. So we improving our body composition is a new world problem, right? Back in the day when we were running in the middle of the desert and kind of had to like grow our own food, you couldn't just sit down and eat, 2,000 calories of chips while you're watching the sunset, right? Yeah, there wasn't that much food available. You had to move throughout the day all the time. So it allowed you to kind of stay fit and healthy. So we basically have to trick our body into improving our body composition. So that means we have to monitor our nutrition a little bit more, right? Eating whole food plant-based makes it very easy to do that because it's such like a high volume of food that you get to consume, right? Including a little bit more resistance training to kind of emulate how our ancestors used to move because they were forced to move throughout the day. They didn't, wake up from bed and drive, sit in the car, go to work, and then sit at their desk all day, and then get back in the car and sit and get to their house and then watch TV and sit on the couch. They were
Right.
forced to move all the time. So basically, improving your body composition is you tricking your body so that you don't store more energy storage more than you have to. So
Mm.
that's just Jillian's story, but just to give an example of what happens when you do it right.
Do you have 5 pounds of muscle to compare to that 5 pounds of fat?
I'm waiting for it. I'm
I was
waiting
going to
for it.
say that would be a big difference.
Yeah, there's a big difference in size, right? Just muscle is more dense. So in terms of volume, it's smaller, but it weighs the same.
Mhm.
Yeah. I got trashed on when I recorded with Chuck. I said basically a pound of fat is the same as a pound of muscle. And someone gave me shit for it. I was like, don't look at the weight because a pound of fatter is the same as a pound of fat. It's a pound, right? It doesn't matter. It's just the volume is different. So yes, I'm still waiting for my 5 pound of muscle, but the volume is a lot smaller.
Nice. Yeah, no, 100%, which makes sense when you don't see the scale fluctuate, right? When you lose 5 pounds of fat and you gain 5 pounds of muscle, you look differently. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No,
And
fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and it's hard to put on muscle if you're not doing anything that is requiring for your body to put on muscle, right? If all you're doing all day is doing the same things that you've been doing, then you have a body that reflects the environment that you have. Like your body and your current health is a reflection of your current life and the environment that
Oh,
you
yeah.
either created for yourself or that you kind of let life create for you. I think that's the case for most people. Most people don't consciously create their environment. It's something as simple as having a stand-up desk, right? Would be you consciously curating your environment so that you expand more energy and you have to move throughout the day, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think people consciously create their lives in general, other than
Yes.
they go to school, they get a job, but then their job requires them to show up and do different tasks. They decide they want to go to school, so their school requires them to do, right? So they don't consciously create the life that they want, and then they feel victim to whatever the circumstances are that happen to have happened. So yes, they should. But I think this also speaks to what's not measured isn't managed very well anyway, unless you live a life that's, like you said, closer to how we were built to live. Maybe live your homesteading somewhere and you're outside, growing your food and doing your thing. You may not need to necessarily a regimented workout, but can you speak to who are most of your clients? Like, what is the typical person that would, do well in your type of program?
Yeah. Most people are the people that are health aware
Mm.
and health conscious, I think is the best way to put it because we've worked with people that are 20 years old up to people that are, I think, 84 is our oldest member that has come in. It's like, honestly, the 84-year-old sometimes is doing better than a 60-year-old. So it's all about how you take care of yourself throughout the years. But that's kind of like the range of people that we've worked with. But typically it's people between 45 and 80. That's kind of the typical people we work with. We can help all those age ranges. But the truth is, it's really hard to convince a 20-year-old that, like, hey, if you don't take care of yourself in the future, you might have these things. Like, no, I'm invincible. I can do anything I want. And in their 30s, still a little bit the same, but still a bit more health conscious. But I find that once you get to kind of 45 and older, then you either have had your own health scare. Maybe you're, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Maybe you're on some medicine. Maybe you're starting to lose some friends or some of your friends are starting to get sick. And that's when it starts to become a little bit more important in your mind of like, shit, I really need to take care of myself so that I can keep up with my kids. So, the values changes all ultimately. So
Mm.
the age doesn't matter. Everyone can transform. It just comes down to the level of commitment that you have to yourself to taking the actions that are necessary for you to transform, right?
Mm.
Because at least how we coach people is it's custom to everyone. I'm not going to train a 80-year-old the same way that I train a 30-year-old, right? They don't have the same outcomes. They have different physical abilities to get started, right? They have different level of mobilities in their body. Potentially they, when you're 60, 70, you had a few surgeries or things that we kind of need to monitor. But if you have the ability to move your body just slightly, you have the ability to make progression. We've had clients where we're like, they couldn't do a squat. So I'm like, hey, we're going to start off with getting you to sit on a chair and getting up from a chair. We're going to start with getting you to walk back and forth in your living room. We're going to get you to start doing push-ups on the wall. So just straight up on the wall, doing push-ups. But eventually we can get them to go on the kitchen counter and eventually on the chair and eventually on their knees on the ground and eventually a full push-up. So if you have the ability to move slightly, you have the ability to make progression and get better. But humans are impatient. They're like, no, I want to do a full push-up now. I want to do a full pull-up. I want 20 pounds off my body right now. Yeah. So if you're committed, you can progress and get the thing you want.
Yeah, I think that is really important. The consistency of small everyday things, right? It's really the everyday actions that make the biggest impact over time. That's why it's like most of the time you be eating whole food plant-based diet, right? You most of the time you need to be doing, you know, it's that's 80-20 rule that there's 20% that really make a big part, and 80% it's like diet, exercise, sleep, stress management. Those are the four that I found of
Yeah.
all of them. Because then everything else seems to fall into place for the most part, or you're at least ready for anything that life throws at you for the most part.
Yeah. And in terms of percentages, like if you think of it this way, if you are 100% compliant with the actions, that is the fastest path that you're getting to where you want to.
Mhm.
If you're 90% compliant, it'll just take you a little bit longer than if you were 100%. If you're 80% compliant, it'll just take you a little bit longer than if you were 100 or 90%, right? And we can go all the way down. It's when you start to get to like that 50 to 55% range, you're progressing as much as you're regressing. So now you're just kind of like just going back and forth and you're not really going anywhere. But if we can get
Yeah.
you to be 60% compliant, you will be able to get there eventually. It'll just take you longer than if you are 70, 80, 90, or 100%.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's removing the idea of perfection because life is going to happen. You're going to travel. There's going to be emergencies with the kids, there's going to be emergencies at work, family gatherings, whatever it may be. And so, at least what I found is that people don't fail, people quit. And usually
Mm-hmm.
they quit because it doesn't meet the timeline of their expectations.
Mm.
And there's this weird thing with fitness that people think that it's just going to go all smoothly as they start, right? That just
Mm.
life is going to, like, Jesus opening up the waters, like just everything's going to open up and there's going to be no
Mm.
stressors, no obstacles. You're not going to have any cravings, any bad night of sleep that will increase your
Mm.
cravings. But that's just not the reality of it. So if you can't fail if you don't quit. And as long as you show up, at least 60%, you will get there eventually. That's always a promise. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe we should focus in on why people quit, right? Because I think people know, well, at least they sort of know what they need to be doing.
Yeah.
But, it's like, here's where you are, and actually taking a real um, inventory of where you are, like a realistic inventory of where you are and where do you want to go. So people have, I think they need a realistic point, and then what that pathway looks like you're very good at laying that out. But what are the obstacles that people like, right? So they are like, I'm at I want to lose 20 pounds, let's say. What are the obstacles? It's not even if they're already eating a plant-based diet or whatever. So what are the most common obstacles is like you mentioned was consistency and this failure attitude, or they fail because it doesn't meet something. Is it or expectations? Like, what is that obstacle that sits in that gap between getting them from A to B?
Yeah, for sure. Like I'll be honest, like we're nearing 800 people that we've coached so far. All the people that have ever struggled or that have given up on their own journey, 100% of it comes into mismanagement of expectations. All of it. Because you can tie in having a stressful day at work and deciding to have a glass of wine when you shouldn't have a glass of wine, ordering food in versus eating the food that's in your fridge, going on a vacation and just kind of going all out and not sticking to what you said that you're going to do, missing a workout because you just didn't feel like it. Like all of these things, all that they do is they basically just slow down the amount of time it'll take you to get to where you want to. That's all they do. They do not make the outcome impossible. They just slow you down a little bit because you took a step in the opposite direction, right? Which this will happen. It happens to me all the time when I personally transform, right? Not to call you out, but it happens to you. It happens to
Mm-hmm.
everyone that we've ever coached, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
part of life. So as long
Mm-hmm.
as we take more steps forwards than we do backwards, eventually we end up getting there. But the
Right.
thing is, as we have some of those events, if our expectation is that we're going to do everything perfectly, and then something happened that causes you to take a step back, most people go, I knew it. I suck. I knew I couldn't do it, right? I always do this. And then they
Mm,
just beat themselves up. And then they
yeah.
just never end up getting back on the wagon of continuing to move forward.
Yeah.
And so also most people was like, I would like to lose the weight by the time I have this wedding, by the time I have this trip to Mexico or this trip to Cuba. And a
Right.
lot of time that timeline is a lot shorter than what it would require
Mm-hmm.
because people are focused on the physical outcome versus the
Mm-hmm.
internal outcome. Like it's one thing to get someone super lean for a photo shoot or a bathing suit or a trip or whatever it may be. But
Right.
if you didn't really address the underlying issues that are causing you to have bad habits, bad relationship with food, bad relationship with exercise, you can kind of shut off those little voices in your head for a short period of time, but eventually they come back up. And if you
Yeah.
don't deal with them, you'll just end up in the same place.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like was it Wegovy or Ozempic or
Yeah.
all of these things. I had some people that I was speaking to, Lori, they're like, I was like, I can do your program or I can continue to take Ozempic. And it was like $600 or $700 a month that he was paying for the drug.
Ooh.
And yeah, which was a significant amount, right? It was more than a program. And I was
Right.
like, well, I'm like, you can continue taking the drug, but then you have to continue to pay the $600, $700 per month. And ultimately, you're not addressing the underlying issues
Right.
that will allow you to stay at this weight once you get off of the drug.
Right.
And so I'm like, it's a lot better to address it because as much as it feels good for the long term, it's never going to last because you don't have the habits.
Well, it's like going into they're looking at a short-term fix for a long-term problem, right? So the drugs are not a long-term solution.
Yeah.
And it's going to bankrupt you, it's going to break up society, and it's not good for your overall health. We don't know the long-term inputs of that drug, what's going to lead to health outcomes, again, like you said, yes, it'll help you lose weight, which will help. I'm not saying that it won't, decrease your blood pressure, decrease your blood sugars and stuff, but you're still probably going to be eating at least more towards unhealthy foods, but or maybe they'll start, eating healthier. But it's a mind game, right? It's like any other drug or masking. It's a short-term fix. Do you really want to keep investing in, almost $1,000 a month for the rest of your life? Or do you actually take ownership of your life and make different choices? And so I think, we can definitely go back to my decision to, I finished the half marathon and I did great. I lost weight, gained muscle. I literally went through menopause that same time. Like that was like hormonally shifting for me and I was exhausted, right? So I was like doing the
Yeah.
running and the lifting and our business was changing. It's like, I just need a break. I'm still active, I'm still doing fine, I'm still doing very well, but that's okay too, right? So there may be different phases in your life, like you can have the time and the energy. So, but you still take what you've learned and you still employ those, just maybe ratchet down. Maybe you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have a goal. Maybe it's long-term health, right? Versus, oh, I want to look good in a bathing suit. Like I'm 54 this year. I don't care what I look like in a bathing suit, honestly. I just want to feel good, do my body, move my body the way I want to, even when I'm 90. Like, yeah, I might do
Yeah.
tomorrow, but at least I'm able to move my body and do what I want. Those are the more important things to me now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it really is okay to change also your goals, right? As you go and you meet one goal and you're like, man, I think I have a different goal. And then that's okay too. So I think people are afraid if they aren't feeling so attached to their original goal, sometimes that might be a reason they quit because the goal may evolve. And I think that's a
Yeah.
conversation they need to have with themselves as well.
Yeah. And it's not to be too vulnerable, but that's a conversation you and I had about myself, right?
Mm,
Because
yeah,
me being the face of FitVegan and all these things, I was like, I need to have a shredded six pack where I can do a photo shoot all the time. But the truth is, and for the people that have never had a really like lean six pack, it's very unsustainable. It's not
yeah,
fun. Your energy is down. You don't sleep as well. You cannot eat as much food. You cannot enjoy yourself. You have to be very strict with your nutrition. Same thing with the workout.
yeah,
I personally like to have a little bit more body fat. I feel stronger. I feel better. I sleep better. I'm happier. I exercise better.
yeah,
And so it's about where you're at in your life ultimately. And
yeah,
it changes and it's okay to change,
yeah,
especially if you've never been, because I know some people listening, it's like, I've never had a six pack. I would like to know what that feels like.
Yeah.
If you feel that you do, go for it. But I promise you that there is nothing special to it besides you'll like, oh, I have cool photos. And then eventually you'll realize that you feel a little bit better with a little bit more body fat on your body.
Right. 100%. Yeah. And it's, yeah, and there's just so much going on too. And I will say, as a woman in midlife, menopause will wreak havoc with you. I'm like, there's over 30 different symptoms of menopause. There's joint pain. Like the other weird thing about it was as things were hitting, like I started having joint discomfort that was really weird for me. I was like, what is going on? And so that was concerning to me. So I had to really sit back and just sit back and take inventory of what I wanted to do with my health and where I was, and what's important to me. And yeah, that was really, really an interesting time of transition for me. And so, but you come out on the other side going, well, what a great lesson I can share with others as well. So no, I fully appreciate everything you're saying. We all have these expectations of what we should be, but why? Because other people say we have those expectations. Whatever.
Yeah. And we're I'm actually gonna start a series like that of what fit means to you, because what fit means
Mm,
to me is different and what fit means to you is different with someone that's 80, someone that's 20. And
right.
so it does have to do with the chapter of your life, right? When you're younger, it's a bit more superficial of a goal. I want to look a certain way, find a partner. That's kind of like that time of your life.
Mm,
You get to like, I think your 30s, some people are starting to have families. Your joints start to hurt a little bit more. At least that's what I found. Get into the 40s, you want to be able to kind of keep up with your kids or kind of have that vision that when they are older, you're able to keep up with them.
mhm,
And then I feel at least what I've seen with our clients, when you get into your 50s, you either have had your own health scare or you have friends that have, started passing away or started getting sick, and then it makes you more aware of it. And I found through all of our clients that 60 is kind of like that defining mark. Like people either get like really healthy or they really go downwards.
mm,
And then the people that really go downwards a lot of time don't recover from it, or, thankfully a lot of them will wake up and be like, no, I really need to change something.
mm,
And so I feel like that's a defining age to kind of choose what direction you want to head in. Because
mm,
if you've been 20 to 60 and you've never worked out, you've never cared about food, you just did whatever you wanted,
mm.
that's like 60 years of habit in one direction. Like that's
Yeah,
tough to change.
right,
Um, but hopefully
right.
people woke up and we talk about the pill for fat loss. I actually have the magic pill to fat loss. Do you want to see it? Yeah.
Okay. I can't wait to see this.
I've
Is it
been
a
buying more props
is it
for
a
for
dumbbell?
no, it's a big pill. It's a magic pill of fat loss. I have it right here. So behind here, I have be in a calorie deficit and hit your protein, do resistance training, sleep properly, and then drink your water and manage your stress. So this is the magic pill to fat loss.
But for those who are just listening, he basically had a blow up pill. It has like a capsule with a yellow and a black. He's like, here you go.
It's a big inflatable pill. Yes, I
Yeah.
bought it to make a video, but it's the point is like I would say that Ozempic thing is kind of the first, at least that I know of, the first example of like the magic pill that people were
Mm,
kind of hoping for.
yeah.
And now that it's there, people are seeing it as an easy way out, but it's ultimately hurting people because you're just kind of reinforcing the fact that you think that you don't need to develop these healthy habits, but eventually you will because you'll run out of money or you'll run out of those pills. I was reading articles that people freaked out because their pharmacy was out and they drove 4 hours to try to go
Wow.
buy some.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
that's close to addiction to me.
Well, sure. I mean, but they're so desperate to have instant gratification instead of looking at, well, what actually caused in your life the weight gain, right? So that there's this victim more mentality of I'm a victim of this. It's a
Yeah.
diagnosis. I'm like, 50, 60, 70 years ago, we did not have the obesity epidemic we have. Our environment has changed. So we have to adapt and understand that yes, there needs to be some, political and landscape changes to what we create easy access to for people. But at the end of the day, you're still responsible for you. And if we ran our health like we do businesses, people would be much better off, right? So taking
Yeah.
care, what is the cash? It's kind of almost like your bank statements, right? So you have your balance sheet, you have your cash flow statements, and you have your profit and loss. Those three statements, if you apply them to your health in the same way, You just be very different. You'd make different choices. You take the emotions out of it and you just do what needs to be done. Right. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm happy you brought up business because I use that analogy with some people sometimes. I'm like, transforming your body is just like building a business.
Yes.
There's more you have to always take action. But and then
Yeah.
there's moments you're like, I'm on top of the world. This is the best thing. I feel so good. And then like 2 days after, like you're on the ground crying, like, oh my God, I'm dying. This sucks. Everything is failing. And then you kind of pick back up to a good spot. And it's just that
Oh,
constant fluctuation because it yeah, if you can remove the emotions from it,
mhm.
you've built a business, I built a business. It's if you can remove the emotion from it and just take action, you know that if you
Yeah.
just take action, you don't give up, that thing will be built to the place that you want to.
Yeah. Well, and if you remove the emotion, you're going to be able to look at this logically, be present and be mindful of the choices that you're making. That is the key. I think the mindfulness piece, like instead of worrying about the future or ruminating about the past or celebrating your past, and that emotion comes from that not being present. When you're present, the emotion is calmed down. You can still be happy and joyful or, thinking about that, oh, that's not quite what I want, but you're bringing a different energy, you're bringing a different intellect to the decision making. Then, every problem has a solution.
Yeah.
There's pretty straightforward. You're either going to act to keep doing fix a problem, like, or you're going to remove the problem by pulling that out of the system. It's
Yeah.
really straightforward. Or you just keep letting it go and maybe, try to think that magically that it's going to fix itself. It ain't going to fix itself. It's not.
Yeah.
This is not how it works. So,
Yeah.
but
And for
anyway,
people to know, like you don't have to take action if there's an emotion that arises. Like you don't have to do anything about it. A lot of the
mm,
times you can just let it kind of pass by. And it's not because there's a craving or a stress or whatever it may be. And I understand that it's hard. I'm not perfect at this, but I
right.
have to remind myself, like, I just let it pass. I don't have to do anything about the emotion or the thought that is kind
Yeah.
of running through.
Yeah. So there's a book oh shoot, let me pull it up real quick. That it's been really interesting. It's kind of taking the notion of what an emotion is, and it's a book called How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett. And what was interesting, I was listening to a podcast. It's one of my favorite ones called Hidden Brain. It's a psychology podcast, and they were talking about instead of emotions being triggered, it's actually emotions are manufactured by their brain as a prediction to a situation. So your brain is taking input from all these different things that's going on, and then it actually creates the emotion for that that whatever its prediction is, like, okay, we need to feel like this about that. But it can
Yeah.
only utilize our past experiences, the sensory that we have. So it was really fascinating to think about this backwards. And there's no universal, when you actually look at the science, there is no universal recognition of particular emotions. I want to get this lady on the podcast, but I need to finish her book first. But it
Yeah.
was really interesting. So what they did was the studies that said, okay, there's universal recognition of smiling is happy, frowning is sad. Like, so they took, I think, like 6 different emotions. And so when they went across the world, the studies that said, oh, this is true, they actually kind of coached them, right? It was a biased studies. And then they just kept replicating the same thing. But when you actually go to like remote areas and you don't give them any type of coaching on what a Western, emotion
Yeah.
is or should be look like, it's very different. So it's context by culture.
Yeah.
It's very language and expectation. It's fascinating to think about. For example, there's this one remote village where they are talking about they don't consider emotions as like a state of a mental state. They're actions. So when you had someone smiling, they categorize that as laughing, as it's an action. It's a behavior versus a state. And it was
Yeah.
really interesting. But anyway, got off topic there. But
I got
that's
to read that.
yeah, it's a really good book because it makes you think differently about, well, if I'm mindful, getting back to the mindful piece, I can honestly, if I take a broader perspective, because that's what mindfulness does, it allows you to see a clear picture because you're
Yeah.
present and you're accepting of what, okay, here's the circumstances, acceptance. then you can actually probably construct the emotion that you need, or the emotion that comes is the one that's required for the moment. And so, yeah, the action comes out of that clarity. But anyway, I find it it was really fascinating. My brain
Yeah.
goes in multiple directions.
And I feel like to a certain extent, you can create those new emotions, right? Because if you look at the world of Tony, action will create emotion. So if you can think of someone feeling sad, they're gonna maybe have their head down, breathe a little bit more shallow. And if I get you to kind of like put some good music and stand up and dance, like that emotion that you are feeling will change pretty much right away. And we talk if we think of motivation, I don't know if we consider it necessarily an emotion, but people consider it a feeling. I heard this quote one time and it was like, motivation is taking action when you don't want to do something. That is motivation. So you cannot feel motivation. Motivation is when you do something that you don't want to do, don't feel like doing. The act of doing the thing you don't want to do is what motivation is, right? And
That
so a
is an
lot of times it's
interesting,
you not necessarily, right? A lot of times it's not you just acting on an emotion. It's if you can sometimes kind of create, you have the power of creating some of those own emotions for yourself.
yeah, well, that's basically what this science is saying, is that emotion, motivation, whatever is created, right? So you can either manufacture it consciously, or you can allow your brain to use past experiences to create these same emotions in people while they get stuck in the same rut, because you haven't changed the fact. You haven't changed your experience, you haven't broadened your filter, broadened your perspective. But once you start that, it's a muscle, right? The mindfulness piece, and that's what I like to talk about patients' lives. Like, okay, where can you bring in mindfulness to just your everyday, ordinary tasks? Because once you do that, those emotional driven moments that you get cravings, or you're stressed and you have this habit of going to eat, that'll just, just kind of pull you off the rails on your health journey. This Then you can utilize it even more because it's already a muscle that you're starting to use, just like, lifting a dumbbell.
Yeah. I know we're off topic from fitness, but I think this is valuable for people. You just made something click in my head. This is how Lori's conversation and I kind of go as we every time we meet up. We talk about different things. So I'm happy this is being recorded because a lot of our convos are actually super valuable. But you just made me realize you literally get to curate your environment in every single aspect of your life because from a fitness and health standpoint, if you have your dumbbells out and your shoes out in your living room and your yoga mat out, it will make it easier for you to exercise, right? Because you get to see it versus if it's hidden away. Same thing for the food. If you have a glass container that people have in their kitchen with like Snickers bars in it, for example, or like I don't know vegan chocolate bars because I don't eat them, but like a vegan Snickers bars in there, you're way more likely to eat it than if there's like fresh fruits that are out there. So you kind of get to curate your environment in that regard. If you make it so that in your schedule you have time to exercise, go to the gym or meal prep, or spend time with a loved one, spend time with your kids, you're consciously curating how you spend your time. We also get to choose how you curate your mind and how you show up in the world because, man, when you feel down and depressed, which, I have my moments like that, I'm usually focusing on all the bad things I've ever done in my life or all the times that I failed. But then I had a call with one of my mentors, and he was like, dude, you're a badass. Look at all the things you've accomplished, all the things that you've done. And I was like, oh, yeah, I am a badass, right? So just about shifting the focus. So if you choose to consciously curate your thoughts and emotions, you get to choose what you're focusing on in your life, all the things you did wrong or all the things you did right, all the things that are going wrong or all the things that are going right. And so you literally get to curate every single thing in your life. It's just most people are on autopilot and just whatever comes their way, that's what they're choosing to deal with.
Right. And I think there's two things there. So first of all, you need to create space, which will allow
Yeah.
your mind to have time to reflect, right? And inside of that reflection, I think there's three places you can be. You can be in the past, and it's again, it's mood driven, sleep, perspective, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You may be moments that you feel great about your accomplishments, or those past accomplishments, like, man, I could have done even more, right? So it's the same inventory. When you look at your past experiences, it's the same, but again,
Yeah.
it's perspective and opinion based on your current emotional state. What I've chosen to do as far as that piece is my past is great. It's created my personal space, but honestly, it means nothing to me at this point because of course there are people in my present life, my relationships. I'm not saying that doesn't, but yes, I was a doctor. Yes, I went through medical school with 3 kids. Yes, I have dual degrees. I'm like all those things. Like I can list. But at the end of the day, that past doesn't define me because right now, the way I'd rather choose myself and where my value comes from is understanding that I am a human being that has value just because I'm a human being. That being spiritual piece for me is more important than any accomplishment I can do. The other pieces, so there's the past you can be in, or you can be in the future, which drives anxiety and stress and concern, or you're pulling yourself out of a situation in the current space because I just don't want to deal with it. I'm going to plan some imaginary future that's even better for me. And you live in this future and you're thinking, oh, I'm just the current moment is just a means to an end, right? That's
Yeah.
the other piece is that you're always trying to think, or you're worried about a future that's not going to be the way you want it. That is not helping you either. Because honestly, guess what? The future is a fallacy. The future will be the moment. You
Yeah.
can't go live in the future. The future will be what it is. And there's going to be so many factors that change. So tomorrow you may think or plan something, and it very well might be. But how many of us have said our lives changed literally by a phone call or
Yeah.
by a car accident or you win $1 million? I don't know, whatever that is. It could be good, be deemed good or bad, or you have a choice to live in this current moment. And it doesn't mean you don't plan. Of course, you plan, but you're not attached to the outcome. But if you live in the current moment and you accept the reality of this, there's no that the stress goes away, right? So if I understand, like for example, this letter, we have a condo in Colorado that we're renting. I literally got this letter yesterday saying, "Oh look, the HOA, the home association, is saying there's a special assessment for $13,000. It's due in 48 days for the roof damage done from the storms last year." And so I can either be upset by it and go like, oh sure, I have 13 grand just laying around that I can just throw at this. Or I was like, okay, I guess I gotta call the insurance company, they'll probably pay it. But again, it's just a reality situation. I don't need to be upset about it. I don't need to be stressed about it because it is what it is. I'll deal with
Yeah.
it. Things will happen. And so those type of things, once you just accept it, it's kind of like the water off a duck's back, right? You just let it roll. And it's
Yeah.
such an easier way to live. So, but yeah, and like I said, you can literally change, like you said, the perspective is so important. But the perspective of now, living in this present moment, and I don't know if I shared that this ring that says breathe, be present now has been a game changer for me. So
Yeah.
anytime I catch myself doing those things, I was like, breathe, get back here, come back here, Lord, get back over
Yeah.
here. That's been, that's how I've literally changed my entire existence. And I'd say that's even been more so in the last, 6 to 12 months for sure.
Yeah. It's funny you got the ring. I've got tattoos that remind me of this stuff. I just got tattoos right on
Yes.
inside of each hand so I can like read them. So those are my reminders. But yeah, you're right that
Yes.
a lot of time
Yes. I
it
thought of
is what it is, right?
it is what it is. Yeah, no, I literally have thought about getting, I don't have a tattoo, but I have some bracelets that it says this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And the
That's a
good
good
times
one.
will pass. Yes, the good time will pass, the bad time will pass. But guess what? It's all fine. What it does is it removes that emotional driven stress or anxious or feeling like I'm going to lose something. Like I own nothing. Like yes, my name may be on a house or a piece of land, but when I'm gone, this form, the body goes. I'm doing my best to keep this body in shape and let it do what I want to do. But at the end of the day, it's just all going. And that's okay. I'm here for the ride and then I'll go on to the next thing, like wherever my being takes me. And as long as I've taken that approach, so much easier, so much less stressful. Yeah,
Yeah.
so much
The
better.
this too shall pass is a good one.
Yes, one with
My
life. This too shall
that's what my
pass.
friend told me after Jen passed away, after my late partner passed away.
Mm,
And he's like, this too shall pass. And he just kept repeating that to me and it annoyed me so much. And until I got
yeah.
it, I was like, oh, like the good times will pass. So and appreciate them. the bad times will pass.
Right.
So appreciate them because they
Yeah.
make you appreciate the good times. And it's just like this never ending
Right.
back and forth between them. But yeah, I thought about getting that one tattooed as well.
Yeah. One with life. And I think that's just radical acceptance of whatever the moment is bringing, be it,
Yeah.
great loss or great gain. Just know that even you have $1 in your pocket today, it may not be there tomorrow, and that's okay too. Right. And so if you have that, I think you allows you to see opportunities of expansion and that you wouldn't, right? If you're always scared and have a scarcity mindset, you're only going to see scarcity in this world. But if you have an abundance mindset, you will find opportunities to have abundance in whatever it is that you're looking for. So, yeah, it's the same world for everybody. It's just changing. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are circumstances, obviously, that people are born into and dealing with, but they can make the best of the circumstances, or they can make the same circumstances much worse and create more suffering just by their attitude and actions. So, yeah,
Yeah. I
there are special circumstances for sure.
One of my beliefs about that is that there's someone out there in a worse situation than me accomplishing more than me in what I want.
Mm,
And so which is the truth, right? There's someone that went
right,
through worse than just losing a partner through cancer that have built more than what I'm
right,
doing. And so there's
right.
always, it makes me think of this Nick guy who has no limbs,
Yeah.
right? No arms, no
Oh, no
legs.
arms, legs. Yeah, I know who he
And
is. Yeah.
yeah, he's on a podcast. He's like, man, I'm living like sometimes like a much better life than people with all four limbs just because of how they
Oh,
choose to
yeah.
view the world. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's someone out there in a worse situation accomplishing so much more and being happier and living life even more to the fullest.
Yeah. I like to say that I need to be grateful for what I have currently in my life, because if I compare myself to someone like, um that's the other thing. I think in social media people compare themselves, right? So like, oh
Yeah.
look, I'm better than they are right now, but that always means that someone has to be worse, and I don't want to ever think I'm better because someone was worse. What I do like to say is that I'm grateful for what I have, and I want to celebrate whatever others have as well, because whatever their life circumstances, it doesn't matter, but they're whatever they have, life is there for them at that moment is what they need, just like I do, right? Just like we know that our choices and our attitudes and perspectives got us to where we are currently. What you have in life literally is because the choices that you've made over it. There's good things and bad things, I guess, if you want to rate those. But I'd rather just see them, the quote unquote bad things or the failures as opportunities. And when you
Yeah.
do that, it's you get through them faster because you're not resisting. And but yeah, but I don't ever uh I I went through, I think we all go through this as we were younger, like when you're kids, right? And your friends had better, shinier shoes or the new gadget. It was always the little Hello Kitty diary things for me. I was like, I want a Hello Kitty diary, and so
Yeah.
whatever. Someone's prettier, someone got a date, someone didn't get a date, or this or that or whatever. And yeah, it's a really, really fascinating just to let go of it all and just be
Yeah.
and let it accept it and be thankful for what you have, and it'll come and it'll go, and it's all good. It's all good. So at the end of the day. So
I
yeah,
want to point out something for just I've like stepped out of I've listening to our conversation from outside,
yeah.
and for the listeners, I hope people understand, because I know a bunch of my clients are going to listen to this as well. I hope people understand how much the mindset component is everything.
Mm,
Because I think you're very successful, I'm very successful, we're in good positions 100% just because of our mindsets. Because any monkey can take an action, right? But
right,
it's the mindset piece that kind of gets you to move forward.
right.
And I think that's the part that people miss. And what I've realized early on is you can buy the steps to get to the thing that you want.
Mm,
You want to build a business? Pay a mentor that's made all the stupid mistakes. It'll tell you the steps. You want to get fit? Pay a personal trainer that's brought hundreds of other people through it, right? You want
right,
to pay a doctor that solve a lot of the problems that you have. Like
right.
that's literally what money is for. But I think people use money. We talked about scarcity mindset and abundance.
Yeah,
people let society choose where they spend their money. They need to have the latest shoes, the latest clothes, the
Mm,
latest watch. They need to go to the trip where everyone's going in Greece and taking photos, right?
mhm.
They need to always have the newest stuff. So they let society choose how they spend their money. And the
Right.
difference between people like you and I, or people that have had success in their life,
Yeah.
is they consciously choose to not spend money on these things and spend money on the things that matter to them, that know that
Right.
will bring the quality of their life forward.
Right.
And so that's all life is you're buying time, you're buying knowledge.
Yeah.
You just have to choose what type of knowledge, what type of time you're buying. So when
Right.
you buy, I don't know, I see people spending like $500 on shoes. Like, how many hours of your life did you give away to be able to buy
Right.
those shoes? If I pay, let's just a random number, $1,000 for a mentor for something, or for a consulting call, and that's X amount of hours of my life, but I know that this thing will help me make more, then I got a return on that. I don't get a return on a watch. I don't get a return on shoes. I don't get a return on all of these things. And
Right.
so that's the difference between like scarcity and abundance, and people that are fit and healthy, that are in a better place, is they curate their environment with their money. You're literally buying knowledge. That's literally all it's for, right?
Hmm.
At
Yeah.
least
No,
that's how I
money should
progress.
be a tool. Yeah, for sure. And people are like, well, I don't have any money to do that. It's like, well, we're spending money somewhere.
Restaurants,
Restaurant.
Netflix,
Yeah.
Amazon,
Yeah. Yeah.
shopping, like it's
Right.
cell
It's
phones. Some people have crazy cell phone bills. Like it's, yeah,
yes. It adds very, very quickly. And yeah, there's so many lessons here. So many lessons. I think really when you remove yourself from the what you who cares about the opinions of others, honestly, you are the freedom mentally, emotionally, spiritually, when you like, I don't care. And you just are really this mindful of what do I want a life I want to lead? And you start making actions regardless of the people chattering in your ear or even your own voice going off in your head. You're like, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You can move on. You
yeah,
go on and sit in the back of the bus and be quiet, please, or sit in this corner. I need you to be calm down. Because that voice may not go away, right? It's like
yeah,
I have a bus, I'm driving my life, and I'm the bus driver. And you'll have different passengers come up and whisper in your ears, like, I need to get off here. You're like, no, go sit back down. Just like the kids, right? You're driving the school bus for the kids, like, go sit back down. I appreciate you, but I'm taking this highway and I'll take that exit.
yeah.
And so it really is important that if you just get outside of what everyone else is telling you to do and what do you want? What is valuable to you? And I do know the one thing that people are hungry for is feeling well most of the time. Most of the
Yeah.
time, people want to take actions that allow them, and they struggle with consistency and, like you said, the mindset because they get caught back up in this negative self-talk or someone speaking to them about their opinion, and they're like, now I'm confused. I'm like, let's focus in on one thing. Let's stop jumping to shiny objects, but this is tried and true. It goes back to the basics, right? It's like a basketball game. So like my husband coached our youngest when he was, how old is Gabe? Like 9 or 10, when he was playing basketball. Pat loved it. He is like an engineer. He's like, get to the fundamentals. Guess what? That team of smaller kids, bigger kid, like awkward kids, they won this championship, right? So the big piece of this is understanding that they practice the fundamentals. And if you talk to the great coaches in any sport, it's like practice the fundamentals. The fundamentals will get you over the goal line way more than, some fancy something else one time off. But it's
Whatever you
like,
hear on TikTok, just
yeah,
put it this way.
the short term hack to like, accelerate, kind of gets back to people wanting instant gratification, right? But you have to practice the fundamentals, which always comes back. It's like anytime I do the 9 foods or something that lower your cholesterol, this is going to help. It all goes back to the same thing. Eat more plants, sleep better, manage your stress, and move your body. These are the 4 principles that are the basic ones. And then, and then relationships gets better. Everything gets better. This is really, it's very, very simple. Yeah. It's just, you got it, but you have to realize, give yourself space and time to do what you need to do. So everything else gets better because you just can't add in one more thing. Something has to go. It's okay to say no,
Yeah.
Make it your priority. It's like, I don't have time, then it's not a priority. You will make
Yeah.
a priority. If it's a priority, you will make time. That is just human nature. And so, yeah,
Who said the quote, action expresses priorities?
I don't know, but it makes complete sense. It's
Yeah.
absolutely right.
I don't want to say it's Gandhi. I posted on my stories. It's probably up right now on Instagram. I think my team posted it, but yeah,
Yeah,
we put that on the transformations of our members. But
yeah,
like action express, you can say whatever you want,
yeah.
but your actions are
Intention,
a clear demonstration of what you're valuing right now.
yeah, all the great intention of the world does not bring change, right? It's actions that brings change. And so, what are your actions? Are you tired of what your results? Then guess what? You're gonna have to change your actions, consistency in actions, or whatever. You're like, oh, I worked out for one time 2 weeks ago, and I haven't lost weight. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, it's like eating a salad, like eating a Buddha bowl once a week, but the rest
yeah,
was McDonald's and pizza.
exactly. Which gets us to share this. You have a new program. Please share what that is, and we'll have a link below, guys. As always, Maxime is all on our stuff, like all the time. But definitely share with us this newer program that you have.
Yeah, for sure. So we still have like our flagship program that many of the people know, where we do offer custom nutrition, custom workout, accountability, and all of that.
Mhm.
But we decided to come up with a new offer that we just called Strength and Community. So where people can have access to a custom workout plan tailored to them to meet them where they're at and bring them where they want to. So, building muscle, decreasing their body fat, being able to increase their mobility, being able to strengthen their bones, and also like group calls and education and all that fun stuff. But ultimately, the new offer is a bigger emphasis on just resistance training, because we found that we had a lot of people come to us that didn't really have any transformation goal. They just never did resistance training, or they did, but never really saw results. And they kind of wanted to improve that area of their life. And so we created that for our crowd that, again, wants to strengthen their bones, wants to build more lean muscle, wants to potentially just gain confidence to be able to exercise in the gym, wants to build some strength so that they're able to move throughout the day without pain, or reducing the amount of pain that they're experiencing. Because I think we said this at the beginning of the podcast, as you get older, bone density decreases, the amount of lean muscle mass on your body decreases. And one of the best things you can do is include some resistance training into your plan. It is one of the best things to strengthen your bone. It's one of the best things in order for you to build lean muscle.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, basically that's a new offer for the people that just want resistance training. That is something that we do offer, because before you had to take the nutrition coaching and all that with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So I love it. And so you're allowing people to engage with what they need, if they need the full package or they need just the more detailed structures, like, hey, I'm already doing pretty good, just help me with this movement piece, which is a big one, especially because people are like, what I do, like, I always ask, what do you do for exercise? Well, I'm walking and I'm running and
It's a
I'm doing
common
my,
one.
yeah, the yoga class, or but they're not doing the strength training. And so many people need, they feel a little bit intimidated if they're going into the gym, or not sure what they should be doing based on, their current health status. So, yeah, I think that's fantastic. So, like before, feel free, guys, to click the link below, and we'll get you set up. But yeah, I guess we should probably
Yeah.
we could keep talking
Yeah.
forever for sure.
Well, yeah. Which is one more thing I'll add to that is, basically how it works on our website. Because a lot of people have questions about that. Like, you have to book a complimentary call with our
Mm,
team. The reason why we do that, and again, we love everyone, but is we want to make sure that we're actually able to help you. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, we do filter who comes into the program. We don't let just anyone come into the program, because we have a beautiful community, and I'm trying to not let any bad apples come in and kind of mess it up for the rest of the people. And
yeah,
so that call is to see that if we actually help you, and we are a good fit to work together, right?
right,
Because we may be able to refer you to someone that might be a better fit. At
right,
the end of the day, I just want the best for everyone that we talk to. And so if we are a great fit, beautiful. We'd love to help you. And if we're not, I can refer you to someone that might be able to.
perfect. That's excellent. No, you definitely, and people, I think, would appreciate that. They want to belong to a community that they feel they're a good fit as well, and what the
Yeah.
expectations are. So it's very reasonable. Well, thank you, Maxime, as always. We so appreciate you, and the work that you do and helping people get well. So again, check us out, guys. It's fitvegan.ca, or fitvegancoaching.com.
Yeah, both of them worked. I'll redirect to the
Okay.
other.
Okay. Very good. All
Awesome. Well,
right.
thank you for having me, Laurie.